Okay, so we're live on the Young at Heart Creations page. Let's just go with that, breathe, and go with it. So everybody can see the videos, the tutorials, but only the ladies that paid received their kits and received their patterns, received the instructions, and received the color chart that we're using. And this is what we're painting. This is called Penny's Lane. Mine, I know it's backwards for you. Mine says Grammy's house, half a mile. So we're going to put whatever you want to put on there. But that's what mine says. Let me see if I can get this back over here without knocking everything down. Let's see if we can find Facebook. Everything is really slow. Okay, comments should come up here in just a minute. Okay, Vicki says she's here. Yay, yay, yay. All right, we'll give everybody time to kind of come back on. Okay, so it only took us 10 minutes to get there. Okay, so we're going to start out with, this is optional. I don't always do this because I just kind of go for it. But you can take painter's tape or masking tape. But I like to, if I'm going to put it down on something that I don't want it just super sticky, I will use the painter's tape, but I'll show you what I'm going to do here in just a minute. Okay, there's Heather. Yay, everybody's starting to come back on. But in case you don't know, if you're new, hi Margarita, yay. If you are new to my page, this is a workshop that several ladies paid for to get the kits so that they could paint along with me tonight. And it's called Penny's Lane Workshop is what I've named it. But I did want to show you before I get started. And they each got detailed, printed out instructions. I've got a couple of changes on there that I'm going to make with you. I chose to paint my rabbit in a yellow color, and that's what I put on the list for you, the color list. But I wanted to show you, and the picture's a little small, but the design is out of a book from Mary Darrow, D-A-R-R-O-W. This is her design. These are all her designs. This is one of her books. I think this one was in 1988, and it's called Patty Cakes. And she has deceased. She's no longer with us, but she's got some of the cutest little ideas, and we will probably be painting some more. I did email and get permission to do this from the one that owns her things now, the rights to everything. So, but this is her, right here. This is her color of her rabbit. It's more of an off-white, I don't know really what color you would call that, but kind of a golden color. The wheels on her wagon look more like wood. We're going to do ours black, but you can do yours any way you want to. If you want to follow it that way, you can do that. But that's where I got the pattern. Always want to give the artist, the designer, the credit. You know, I did not design this. This is her design. So I think we will probably be doing at least 2 more of her designs on some other things that I just love them. I'll may work that into next year. I'm not sure exactly when. Let me make sure I got everything out of there that we need. Yes. But used to, in my day, back in the 1980s, we didn't have internet to do this. We just went to everybody's houses or had paint parties, things of that nature. We had books. We could not wait for Hobby Lobby to put out the new painting books that they would put out monthly or quarterly. And so many different designers had little books out like that would have step-by-step instructions on what to do. And, you know, they were copyrighted. You could only trace the patterns, which is what I did. I traced the pattern and then copied it, my trace one for to send you in your kits. So this is what we're painting on. I am Pam Savage, owner of Young at Heart Creations. So not technical, and that's why we're on this page and not my private group page, because Facebook changed something on me and I can't figure out what they did. I'm sure it's the user. Hi Joanne, hi, welcome. So everybody is going to be able to see the tutorials, but only the ladies that paid get the kit. I mailed their kits a couple of weeks ago. They all have their kits, and their name is going to be put in, I've already put them in a list on the name of wheels, spin the name of wheels, or wheel of names. I think that's what it is, wheel of names. I said it backwards. And they will, somebody's going to win on Saturday. Somebody's going to win the drawing to win one of our new sets of the Dippin' Dotties that come out next month. We're going to have a sale on June the 26th at 10 o'clock right here on this page for our new Dippin' Dotties. We've got a little pumpkin and ghost and witch's hat. So many different ways you can use those, and if you'll go to the video or a couple of videos before this one, I did a little demonstration on those, just a real short one, but there you go. Okay, so I'm going to turn my board over. This is a framed one, so it's inset. I'm going to bring you down, just so I'll have a surface, because I don't want my tape super sticky, so I take it on. You can use a fuzzy blanket, whatever you want to use, but I use, now I need to measure, fairly close here. And I like to put it on the towel. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times, just to get some of that sticky off. And it won't be near as sticky, but it will stick to the surface. So that gets some of that sticky off, so it doesn't like rip your paint off if you are, let's see, which do I want this? I think I want mine turned this way. Mine has a little blemish at the top, so I'm going to put that at the top because we'll cover that up with the sky. Okay, so I'm going to tear a little bit of it off. Got it too long. And I'm just going to put it right up to that edge so that when we do the frame, it doesn't get all over the inside. And it would probably paint over it, but just to make sure. All right, now, so you saw what I did on the towel, so I'm just going to do it in my lap now. Kind of measure it out. Enough to carry it, so I'm just on and off with this tape. Now this shirt may have enough fuzz in it, I don't know, but I've got my trusty towel here that I got a few years ago from Erica Wallace, Wallace House Designs. So it's a very sentimental towel. Okay, so I'm just going to do the same thing up here at the top. Just get it right up against that edge. Okay, so now we're going to do the sides. Now this is a double-sided. You could paint something on the back of this, and you could just put it in an easel or, you know, stand it up. Now my surface is not even here, but it does stand up on its own. So you wouldn't have to put a hanger on the back. You could paint something else on the back of it for a different season, or just anything else. But so if you are going to do that, if you're going to paint something on the back of this, you may not want to do this step. You may not want to stain the back of it. You might want to just stain or paint the edges. You don't have to stain it. If you want to paint it a color, you can do that as well. I'm just going to do this and show you how to stain without using stain. Okay, I still got it just a little bit too long, because I don't want it coming up the sides, because I'm going to stain it inside also. Now I got it a little bit too short. But it doesn't matter. I think our colors are going to cover right over it anyway. So I'll put that little piece right there. Okay, let's do this other end. And about right there. See, that was so sticky, it was grabbing it. So I'm just putting the tape on and off of this fuzzy towel. Now, a pillowcase won't work. It doesn't have a lot of fuzz on it. And you don't want too much. You don't want something that is just going to, when it comes up, is all you can see is fuzz on it. And again, a lot of times I don't even do this step. I just go for it. But I just wanted you to see that if you do have trouble sometimes, or just need a little piece on it for some reason, this is a good way to do it. And got a little spot sticking out there. Okay, so I've got it taped off like that. You can tape it off if you were going to do something just in here. Really press them down so it wouldn't bleed, and that would give you a frame around it that way. Okay, so we've got that ready. Now you can use any color that you want to with what we're about to use. I'm going to use burnt umber and give it kind of a wood, just a wood stain look. I brought a big bowl, but typically I just do it in a small cup like this. But I wanted to do it in a bowl where you could see it tonight. So I'm going to use a 1-inch flat, just an old brush that I've got. The hairs are just going everywhere. I did get it a little bit damp. Okay, so we're just going to put, oh, I don't know, about a $50 or so. And we'll do more if we need to. You're also going to need a baby wipe. Now, on your instructions, if there's some of this that I did not write down or that I did not do for you, that's why I said get something to take notes, so that you'll have something to take notes on. But we'll use a baby wipe here in just a minute. Then I'm going to take and add some water. I have water in my jars over here, but we're just going to take, I've got some in this little container. So I'm going to add some. Then I'm going to mix it up. It's a lot easier in that smaller one. But you want it kind of inky. So I'm going to add just a little more water. The more water you add, the lighter it's going to be, but you can put another coat on it. So see how inky that is? It's just really soupy. Okay, so I'm going to wipe that handle off. And then I'm going to mix it some more with the bristles. Got quite a bit of water in there. So let's do the back first. And I try to do it with the grain. And on this one, the grain goes up and down this direction. Some of them, I think the grain went this way. So just whatever you have. Okay, so again, it's very soupy. And I'm just going to start putting it on. And we may or may not have to take some off. If you like the color it's giving you as it's going on, then that will work great. And remember, you want to go off the side, not this way, because you'll have it dripping down the sides. Okay, there's one section. Let's take our baby wipe. And again, you don't have to do this step. If you like how it's looking, just leave it and let it dry. But I'm going to take some of it off. and fill in a little spot that didn't get covered. Look how pretty that is. That grain showing through. Now remember, on some woods, it will raise the grain some. I think I'm going to add just a little more water. And you can always add a little more paint too. So you can do this with any color you want. If you want a darker stain look, go with a darker brown. But you could also use blues, reds, whatever color you're needing to go for. If it's Christmassy, you might want to use green or red or something like that. But just water it down to an ink consistency. And again, this is if you're not going to be painting the back of it. If you're going to be painting a scene or something on the back of it, then you're not going to want to do this. Unless you're wanting a stained look background on it. And just lightly wipe. You don't want the baby wipe coming off. Turn it around and go towards the other end. And then we're going to do the sides. And again, I'm going to the outside. And you don't really want to think about it. You just want to go for it. Hi, Dawn. Welcome, welcome. Mr. Pam is at a meeting and will be coming in sometime during this. So I told him he could say hi when he came in, but that he had to be quiet. He usually comes in and gives me a little smooch. Says, hello, I've missed you. I said, you can't come in here and give me a smooch while I'm live. So watch, he'll probably do it just to embarrass me. Okay, so I'm happy with mine that color. Now, if you want it darker, you can let it dry and go over it again. Hi, Amy. Hi, Pam. Okay, but let's go ahead and do the outside edges and then the top and inside. And it doesn't take long at all. And I'm probably not even going to wipe it off with the baby wipe. I'm just going to let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Okay, let's go ahead and do the top of that one. My daughter-in-law posted a picture. We went to their house this past weekend down close to College Station, just about 2 hours north of Houston. And I was feeding deer in their yard. Their yard is always full of deer. And all the mamas were so fat and pregnant with their little fawns. I didn't get to see any. So she posted a picture today. One of them was born. Tiny, tiny little deer. Okay, so I went ahead and did the front of that also. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to do the edge. So right now I'm doing the outside edges and the tops of some, and then we're going to go and do that inside. And we'll have to be a little more careful with the inside because we don't want it dripping everywhere. But if you put tape up, that should help that some. It may still bleed through a little bit because it is so thin. It's mostly water with just a tint in it now of that burnt umber. But on some scrap wood, you could practice with or experiment with different colors to see what different colors you'll get. Different looks with different colors, the blues, the greens. Okay, so I have the whole outside done, so let's go. And This wood may have some blemishes, like right here. It's got a little bit where it doesn't cover. That's probably where they got some glue or something. And I didn't take time to sand mine down. If you've got some blemishes on yours, you can sand it down and it won't have that. But that doesn't bother me. Now, if it was something really bad, I could do that. So who's painting with me? I know a lot of people, I did not realize this was Memorial Day weekend when I scheduled this. So I know a lot of people have things going on and are going to be watching the replays. Okay, now I had some drip on the back. So just take that baby wipe and smooth it out. And you do want to check that. And check your surface before you get ready to paint to make sure that it's not covered in this. Okay, now we've got everything on the outside done. Let's do the inside. I'm not going to put quite as much on my brush. And it helps if you set it right side up and are painting down, not painting with it leaning so that it's going to drip down in under. So I'm doing it right side up. And not painting against that tape. And not getting it super wet. You could knock out several of these, or anything that you were doing this technique with. It just doesn't take long at all. Now I'm taking a little longer because I'm demonstrating, but it's really very fast. And remember, when you finish, you want to look for any drips. Now there's going to be some glue on some of these where they've glued the boards together. That may not cover completely. You may want to try to do something with that. I'm just going to leave it. I think the eye is going to be drawn to what we're painting and not those. So I've got my tape on that one. When I take it off, I'll have to kind of touch up. Okay, I'm going to dry the back of it right quick. It should dry pretty fast. Hi, Francis. Sure he can. Don't encourage him. He is such a sweetheart. He is. Margarita's painting. Anybody else painting with us? So that's probably why I didn't have a lot more sign up for this, because it's a holiday weekend. And so everybody's going to be so busy. So I just want to get the dampness out of this so that when I turn it over, it's not going to be splotchy if I have anything on here. It does take just a little more to dry it, and I want to get it dry because when you get wood that wet, we've got so much, water in this, it'll swell and it may warp on you. So you want to make sure that you get it dry enough that it's not going to do that. Okay, so I think we're good there. And I'm going to go ahead and take my tape off. And I know I've got a couple of little spots where my tape was up on the edges. And it did bleed under just a little bit, but that's okay. We're going to cover that up. But just imagine how much it would have if I had to put the paint down. I mean, the tape down. But it's just so thin and watered down that it's just hard to not let it go through a little bit. So don't let that bother you. If it does, see how mine bled through a little? That's okay, because it's going to cover it. Okay, now I need to look and see where my paint was, my tape was up, so I'm going to just barely go in, and my brush is pretty dry, but I've got enough color on it that I can go in and fix where it didn't cover because I had tape over it. And I think that's it. One more spot. One more little spot there. Okay. So I'm going to rinse that brush out. And we're done with this. And I'm just going to set it over here to the side. And probably forget about it and step in it on the way out. Okay, so now we're going to mix up your Williamsburg blue and some white. And we're going to just, the only thing I've ever heard it called is slip slap. We're just going to slip slap those two colors on at once. So the Williamsburg blue, and this is all deco art, and then some white. And we're going to use that same brush. About the size of a 50-cent piece maybe. And we may have to add some more. So I'm going to put this just right beside it, but I'm not going to have them touching. Now you could use a lighter blue. You could do any color background that you want to do. But that's what we're going to go with. So I've got that stain color out of the brush. Okay, I washed it out good. And I'm going to go in with blue and white both. So I got blue on one side, white on one side. And I'm just going to start making like X's. And I'm just going to dip into both all the way through this. And then we will, if you want it lighter, put some more white in it. Let's go down the edge just to kind of cover that where it bled up. And you want to maybe put a little more of a solid color on it. So wherever you see that, just kind of lay your brush on top of it with some of that paint. And you can see I'm just dipping and dipping, both at the same time. Get up in the corners. Just kind of standing my brush up. And if it starts getting too dry on you, just add a little bit of water to your brush. You don't want it real soupy like we did our stain though. And as I add the white, it gets a little lighter. Oops, got some on that stained part. I touched it accidentally, which is fine. You can go back over it with the stain. But hold your brush kind of straight up and down. And if you get a little bit on that stained part, it's okay. We want to soften it up some. We'll do it with more white. is also really fun and gives you a little bit different look, but I'll do it with the same color sometimes with a sponge, a sea sponge, and just pounce it on with 2 colors. You could even do 3 colors. You can get some really pretty backgrounds doing it that way. Okay, I'm going to lay this down now that you've seen how I'm just dipping in both, so it's not making so much noise. Now you don't want to mix it up so much that you have just a solid color. You want the contrast to show. And down here, we're going to cover it with, it'll be covered with paint. And the road that we're going to do, you also may want to turn it around so you're not going in all the same direction. Just turn your piece around. Now these do have this wood. I'm not sure what kind of wood it is, but it does have some little fuzzies in it that are just part of the wood. It's just going to be there. So you're just slip, slap, slip, slap. You don't want any of the wood grain showing through. Okay, I'm going to stand my brush straight up. And where some of that stain bled through, cover that up. Leave some of that white showing. Now up closer to the top, you can definitely leave some of that white a little brighter to look like clouds. I didn't eat supper before this because I didn't want to get indigestion, so you may hear my tummy growling. It's not a monster under my table, it's me. All right, some of those corners are a little bit hard to get in. I'll turn it over and we'll do it that way. And then once we finish with it, you want to kind of step back and look at it. And see where you need to lighten it up some or darken it in some places. Okay, that's what we've got so far. Pretty. Pretty, pretty, pretty. You may want it lighter in the middle, depending on what you're doing. You may want it lighter around the edges or darker around the edges. That's not really what we need for this particular pattern. Okay, so I'm going to cover some of that stain up. I may take a smaller brush and get into those corners a little bit. This little brush has just about had it, and it's pretty fat. And again, we're going to have a road down here. It's going to cover most of that up, so we really don't have to worry about that. I'm not sure exactly where how far up it'll come. So we do want to make sure we've at least got a coverage on it. The only hard thing is knowing when to stop. Okay, so I'm just kind of going through and softening it up right now. So pretty swirly. And I have a hard time seeing because I've got all the lights on for the camera. So sometimes it's hard for me to see where exactly everything is. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit smaller brush. Cover some of that up because I know the road is not going to go up that high. Okay, so I'm going to take just a small round brush, and whatever you've got, a smaller flat brush will be fine. And I'm just going to get up in the corners a little bit where I had trouble reaching. And I've got a mixture of white and a mixture of that blue. Just little bitty spots down here that that big old brush couldn't get. So I'm just working it in, doing some swirls so that it doesn't show up. And then we're going to dry it, and you want to make sure that it's really dry because we're going to put the pattern on. And we don't want it wet. Now I'm making a mess because I'm doing it so quickly here. I want to get to a certain point tonight, but you can take a little more time with yours. Okay, so I think we're good there. Got a couple of little spots here that I'm going to wipe off. Okay, I think we're good. And I ordered these off of Amazon, these wood pieces. Okay, that's the top. Okay, and I'm just washing off anywhere I went a little bit too high with that paint while it's still wet. I'm just doing that. Now you could also stain this whole thing in the blue, in whatever color this is going to be. You could stain it one color of that where none of that shows up. So that is strictly up to you. I am going to add a little bit of white down here. Add a little of that blue in there. I just don't want a harsh line. There we go. Okay, so your background is done. Now let's dry it. And again, we want it really good and dry. Hi, Janet. How are you feeling? Janet just had a knee replacement a few weeks ago. See a little spot right up here. As you dry it, you may find some places that need a little more. I'm just taking my finger and kind of working it in. Get all up in the corners really well. Francis is just watching. Dawn's just watching. Debbie said she's not as prepared as she thought she was. That's okay. You can go back and watch the replay. Margarita's painting. Amy's with us. I don't know if she's painting, but she is with us. Okay, so next you're going to need your pattern and your tracing paper. I gave you a piece of tracing paper in your kit. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside just a moment and let it continue to dry while we trace. I think I ordered this tracing paper off of Amazon, but I think you can get them in any of the dollar stores or definitely Hobby Lobby. This one had 75 sheets in it, and it's a full sheet. These are 9 by 12. We are definitely not going to need that much for this, so I cut one page in half. Now let's make sure our surface is dry. We don't want our pattern getting wet. Okay, and you're going to need a pencil. So, you've got, and I got stain on mine. I'm messy tonight. Okay, so we're going to, you can trace the whole pattern with tracing paper, and a lot of people do that. They just trace their whole pattern with what they're doing on the tracing paper. But I'm going to just do the details because you don't want to trace or use the graphite. You don't want to put the eyes and nose, all the little details on because you're going to base coat. So if you put all those details on, you're going to base coat and just paint right over them. So we're going to go back in and add those. But you do need to trace enough of the pattern to know where to come back and place it. Because if you just did the eyes, you're not going to know where to put it back in. I'll explain that here in a minute as I show you. So I'm going to go through and do the face, just the outside lines, and the ear, this way you'll know exactly where to put the pattern back down to do those details. Okay, so we're going to do the outside of the eye. And the little nose. And you can do that little part of the mouth if you want to. And I didn't do the stitches. I just freehanded those on. Okay, and now let's do the eyes on the teddy bear. Scoot it over. Make sure you keep your pattern exactly in the same place. Don't let it slide off. So we're going to do the outside of the head. We can go ahead and do the outside of the ear. And let's do the outside of his little face. Okay, so we're going to do the eyes and we're going to do the outside all the way around. All the way around. And let's do the eyebrows, the top of the eyebrows. And let's do his little snout and nose. So I'm doing the outside edge. These are thick lines, so that's why I'm saying the outside edge. You don't want to draw both lines, just do the outside edge and that'll be plenty for you. And then let's do the little heart for his nose. And let's see, do we want to do, let's go ahead and do the outside edge of the sign. Not that we'll really need it, but it'll just help you to place it. When you need to get it back on to do those faces. Okay, and I'm just doing the top half of it. And just anywhere else that you think you might need it for something. But that's really all we need. We just need the faces. And if you want to do the eyelashes, so you'll know where the eyelashes are, that's fine also. I usually just freehand mine on. Okay, so that's basically all we've got. Okay, and we're going to come back and use that in a minute. But first we've got to get our pattern on to our board. Okay, and I cut these down so they would fit right inside it. So we've got our pattern down. You're going to take your graphite paper, shiny side down. Now mine is white on one side and dark on the other, but some of your graphite paper, it's dark on both sides, but the shiny side is what you want down. And you can see how many times I have used this one piece of graphite paper. Carbon paper tends to be much darker and has quite a bit of the carbon on it, and sometimes will get on your pattern where you don't want it to. So a lot of times what I will do when I have a new piece, I'll take a little bit of a paper towel, dry, and I will just wipe it off. Wipe some of that. Now this one, this is graphite paper, so it really doesn't do that. But I will, if yours has a lot on it and it's getting where you don't want it, just take it and wipe, not real hard, but just wipe a little bit of it off. And some of it is coming off. So that'll help keep it from smudging everything. Okay, so I'm going to go dark side down with mine. Now, if yours is a lot smaller than the inside of your frame here, then you might want to tape the edges down so that it doesn't move. Just put you a couple pieces of tape on it. And I will have to move this because my graphite paper doesn't fit the entire pattern. So I am going to go ahead and put a piece of that tape up here in the corner, right on that where we painted, just to kind of hold it in place so that I'm not having to shift my pattern around. Okay, I'm going to come down just a little bit because mine was sticking out too much. There we go. Now that left me a little more room to stick another piece of tape up there so my pattern's not going anywhere. Okay, so we've got our graphite paper on. So we want to trace the outside of all of the, not just the outside, but the arm and but not the faces. Remember, we're going to put those on again in a minute. So let's start over here with our little flowers. And let's do the outside edge of those. And then we're going to lift it up and make sure that it is going through. Okay, and for the stem, I'm just going to go right down the middle. Okay, but I want to lift it up. If I can get it up. Okay, and yes, it is showing up. Okay, so we want to do the whole pattern that way. And you can do it with pen or pencil, whatever you have. So I'm going to do all of the little hearts and then stems. Right down the middle of the stem. And the pencil lead is shiny once you get it on there. Now you want to press down hard enough that it's coming through onto your project. Okay, be sure to get the leaves. And again, I'm just doing the outside edges of those hearts and leaves and going right down the middle with the stems. Okay, next let's do the head and ears, so the body of the rabbit. So I'm doing the other ear now. You don't want to press so hard that you're tearing through your pattern. You don't want to do that. Now we're not going to do anything else on the face right now because we're going to base coat it. So make sure you get the little inside part of his ear, that side. Let's do the belly, the body. And you stop at his hand and then come back on this side. Come around. Let's do his little hand. It's just a circle. And it kind of covers a little bit of the inside of his belly there. Okay, let's do this heart. Make sure you come up and touch the bottom of that ear. It's going to go over the ear. I did a piece one time, very intricate piece. Got it all traced on, took the pattern off. There was no pattern that had transferred. I had the graphite paper turned the wrong way. That's very, very disheartening. I had spent so much time on making sure I had it just right. All right, let's do this leg. So you definitely want to, before you remove the pattern, just lift it up and make sure you haven't missed anything. Now I got that foot a little bit wide, so I'll adjust it with my paint. Okay, gotta do this arm. And we already did that ear. So I'm going to do the handle on the wagon. Let's do this little flower here. Make sure we get the leaves. And you could trace these flowers on that tracing paper and come back and put them on. And that's why it is good to do your pattern, the whole pattern on tracing paper, because you can just come back and lay it over and you know exactly where everything is. So now I'm doing my sign post. And did we already do the sign on there? Let's see. I think we did. Didn't we do the signs? I'm going to lift it up and see. No, we did not. Okay, and I need to scoot my paper down because I didn't get, his feet were off of the graphite paper, so I need to get, the bottom of his feet were. So let's go. Back around those. So check yours right quick and make sure that you got everything on the bottom there. Okay, now they're on there. Okay, that little flower didn't get on there, so I got to redo it. Okay, let's get our wagon. And we'll do the wheels. There's a little bitty corner up here by the handle. So you want to be sure and get that on there. And we don't need this little dip, and we'll have to kind of come back in with the handle because we're going to paint over it. Okay, so we're getting the wheels. It would be cute also to use buttons or half button for that wheel, or just use buttons for these, and then just paint the one that's just showing the inside here that's on the other side. Okay, we don't need any of the details on the wheels yet. That little flower won't show up yet, but let's go ahead and put these little flowers on, because we're going to have to base that wheel. Okay, let's do our bear. Oh, let's do the sign first. Really doesn't matter. So a lot of tonight is just getting everything ready to start doing the detailing. We may get some base coating done tonight. Okay, and we're not going to write anything on the sign yet because we've got to do the base coating on that. So let's get Mr. Bear done. The tissue. In what direction did I lay the tissue? Okay. All right, let me answer some of these questions here. Okay, if you're talking about, are you talking about the tracing paper, Margarita? Is that what you're calling tissue paper? The tracing paper? It's not tissue paper. Tissue paper is too thin. This is tracing paper. In what direction did you lay the tissue paper? Okay, and there's no certain direction. I went long ways, width-wise. Let me see if I can show you. Okay, so there's the board and there's that. So it's really just a small piece. Yes, okay, so I just and it's really just any way that you can get it all on there. If you want to put a full piece on here and do it, you can do that. Just make sure it's not wiggling around on you. But I knew we were just going to need a couple of areas, so we didn't need a full sheet. So I've just got it laid on it, and now we can see exactly where to put it, to put the details here in just a minute. And then there was another question. Okay, Janelle says, why are you putting it on tracing paper first rather than just put carbon paper behind it and do the same image that way? Okay, I think what you're asking, let me know, Janelle, if this is not right. And Vicki, you can go back and watch the replay, so don't worry about it, honey. Don't feel like you're getting behind. If I traced everything on, I think what you're asking, Janelle, I put my pattern on, got it situated where I wanted it in the frame, and taped it so that it wouldn't go out of place, because I don't want it shifting on me. Pull you down just a little bit. I didn't want the pattern shifting, so I put the pattern down, taped it up here, and then lifted the pattern up, and that's why I left myself some corners up here so I could lift it. Then I lifted it up, and you can get bigger sheets of graphite paper too. These are the small, I think they're 8 by 10. I'm doing it upside down, I can't. And then I put, so then that way I've got my tape up here. I can just lift my pattern up, but it's going to stay in place. It's not going to shift around on me. And then I can shift my graphite paper however I need it. Now you may have a piece big enough that you can just put it under the whole thing and you don't have to lift it up and make it fit. But I didn't have a piece that big. I could put another piece in here and make it fit, but I just shift mine around, my graphite paper around. Did that answer your question, Janelle? Hi, Sybil. Okay, so I always put my pattern down first, get it in place where I want it, the position that I want it in, and then I go in and do my graphite paper. Okay, so I hope that answered your question on that. And then we're going to use once we get our base coating done, we'll use that tracing paper. Why did you do the image on the tracing paper too? Okay, that I'm going to show you after we get base coating done. It may be tomorrow night before we get to that part. But let's say, because we're going to paint our details, we're going to paint base coat. So if I went ahead and put my details on, my little eyes, and traced those on the actual project, the wood, then I'm going to come in, I'm about to base coat everything, so I'm going to just paint over those eyes. It'd be really hard to paint around those eyes. You could, but it would be a lot more tedious to do that. So I'm just going to base coat the whole thing, and so it'll be a solid color, whatever color you're using. Now I have the exact pattern on my tracing paper, but if I had to come back and try to lay this pattern on this copy paper over what I had put on here, painted on here, it would be really hard to match up because you can't see through this. So you have to lift it, make sure you're getting it on the right thing, getting it in the right position. But with the tracing paper, I can come up, let's say this is the wood. This is not the pattern. This is on the actual wood. Well, now I can just, with this tracing paper, come and lay it right over it and see exactly where it needs to go to line up. Once you get used to using it, you won't go back the other way. And it's so helpful. Okay, so I hope that answered, but I think you will, when we base coat, we would cover the stitches as an example. Yes, so we're not going to do the stitches yet. And I didn't do those on the tracing paper because they're going to be so easy just to freehand. We won't need to put the pattern back down. So yes, if we went ahead and did trace the little stitches on, when we come back to base coat, you're not going to be able to see the stitches. You're going to have to put them on again. So I hope that answers that. All right, so let me see, where did I stop here? And I need to scoot my paper over. Okay, I haven't done this. And I think Yeah, I need to do the rest of this wheel. Graphite paper, and I hadn't moved it over yet. Okay, so now we're going to do the little bear, and I don't remember how much of him we had done before I did the question, so let me lift it up and look. Okay, so I'd only done one ear, so we're good there. And we need to do the little flower again. Just going to do the stem of that one because we'll have to come back and paint it on because we're going to do the wheel. Okay, and let's get some of this little, oh, let me bring you down, I'm sorry. Blow my nose a little bit. Okay, so I did the ear. I'm going to do the outside of the head. That little ear, I'm not going to do the little insides of the ears because we'll just freehand that with our paint. His little belly. Now I am going to do the inside of the foot. I'm not going to do the eyes, but I am going to do the snout. And I think I'll wait on that nose. We'll do that in a minute. Okay, so now we need to do the flower pot. Make sure you get the sides. And we're going to do the flowers in the pot. And you can even add to the flowers. Make them fuller if you want to. You can do different flowers. And some of those leaves are behind the other leaves and stem. So when we paint it, it will look like it's behind. Okay, let me lift it up and let's see if I have everything on there that we need. Oh, I didn't get the back of the wagon. Okay, I think that's everything we need. Let me get a little harder there. Okay, so that's the pattern. Roughly. We don't have all the little details on. So now we can lift our pattern off. And this is basically what you should have. You should be able to see it on your piece that well. Okay, so we are going to base coat our bunny first. Mine is, since it's going to be yellow, a light yellow. Hi, Laura. Okay, making sure I hadn't missed any questions. So I'm going to do white since I'm using yellow. Yellow is sometimes hard to cover, especially on a darker color like this. So we're going to go ahead and base coat our bunny in white. You could use white, you could use off-white. And we'll have to use a couple of different brushes. I think I will start out with, let me get a drink. Okay, I'm going to start out with a 3/8 inch. But you could use an angle or a flat brush, whatever you're most comfortable with. But I'm going to start out with that, and I may have to downsize a little bit. And I tend to not want ridges when I'm painting, but if I've got something that's going to, like this arm, that's going to come over, I will sometimes leave a little ridge so I know where it starts and stops. Now remember, the hand kind of comes in, so you're going to go around that hand, indent a little bit, and then back up. And smooth out your lines. And remember, this is just an undercoat, so it doesn't have to cover completely. You may be more comfortable using a smaller brush with it. And again, I may change as I get into some tighter spots. So I'm going to make a little bit of a ridge on this, where this arm's going to go. And by that, I mean just a little bit, the paint's raised just a little bit. And it may be easier too for us to go ahead and like paint the belly and the face yellow and then come back and do these. That may be easier for you. If you're a beginner, it may be easier for you to do that. So let's just do that. Let's just pretend that we've got some beginners in here with us, because we just might have. Now this little section in between his ear and his belly, that is, let me look, that's part of his arm. So that's going to be yellow also, but we'll wait and do that one in a minute. Let's do the belly and the face right now. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back around. And you see me sometimes before I actually paint, I'll get my brush kind of over here, and that's because I don't want a ridge in spots. I get some of the paint off of my brush, so I don't have one of those ridges. Okay, so I'm just going over some spots. Let's dry it just a little bit. And I'm just putting a little bit more. My tummy growling. And it's okay if I get down in here because we're going to do the same thing with it. That face needs another coat. I miss having the books, the magazines, or not magazine, but painting books that we would get at Hobby Lobby and other places. And they would, oh, it was so much fun to just wait, and you know, the anticipation of what patterns they were going to come out with next. Okay, so I got the face and the belly enough white on it that we can go ahead and do the yellow on that. So let's dry that. And let's go in with our baby duck. Baby duck yellow. I'm going to use the same brush. So I'm washing that white out of it. It helps so much to have that white undercoat. Okay, go around that ear. And I left myself just enough little of that little ridge there that I can see exactly where that face goes. Okay, and I don't want to get down into where I don't have any white yet because it's going to change the color if I do. So when you get a little more comfortable doing these patterns and things like this, you'll learn little tricks about how to do it to save yourself time. Around that hand. Okay, let's dry it, and we're probably going to need one more coat. Oh, Sheila, that was like finding gold. Hi, Miss Laura. Vicki said she wants to encourage everyone, if you haven't painted on fabric before, Miss Pam has it all down. Well, I'm not sure about that. I was supposed to paint the hat previously with her and had medical issues. I finally started it today, and because of the excellent guidance with Miss Pam's replay, I am happy with my hat and excited to do more fabric painting. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. It is so much fun. I'm trying to rearrange my schedule so that we can do an apron workshop. Looks like it might be September. Not positive yet. But I'm trying to work that in. The Dippin' Dottie sales takes me about 2 weeks to get them. By the time we get them made, invoiced, packaged, and shipped out, takes about 2 solid weeks of working on those to get all those out. So it does take a little time, so I have to kind of work around those. Okay, let's go ahead and dry this. Now again, there's 2 or 3 different ways that you can do this. You could go ahead and just base coat the whole bunny and go back in if you traced it with tracing paper or whatever, and then put the little lines where they separate and everything. Or you can do it like this, if this might make it a little less stressful for you. So we're going to shade with deep ochre, true ochre. You could use honey brown, but I'm going to use the deep ochre. And I'm going to use a number 7 angle brush. You can also use a flat brush. And we're going to go ahead and shade these sections so we know where to put the paint the legs and things. Okay, so I've just got a little bit of that on my brush. I put a little bit of water, just a little bit, down on the surface itself, and I'm really pressing. Pressing it down so that it goes all the way across the brush and gives you that soft look. Okay, and this dries really fast under these lights. Okay, let's do the this side of the belly first. I need to see where that arm goes. So I have clean water. I have a jar of water that I wash my brushes out in as I'm painting, and then I have some clean water that I use to shade with. That was a little bit too much water, so I'm just dabbing some of that off. Go around that hand. The stitches will be in this color also. And remember, it's going to dry darker. And I really need to be going by the directions. And there are going to be a couple of things on here that, under your instructions, it says frame and back of frame. We stained, we did that. But then number 2 should be the background, and I've got those reversed. Number 2 should be the background, slip slapping this blue and white background on, and number 3 should be tracing of the pattern. So I will correct anything like that and email you a new sheet of instructions. I've made myself some notes, but you might want to make yourself a note there because that was backwards. So it's 1, and then the bottom one there on your first page, number 2 says background. That should be where where it says tracing pattern on, because we did those. I had those out of order on this sheet, and I looked at it how many times and didn't notice it until I sat down here. So we are on page 2 now of your instructions. Page 2, we're working on the bunny. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit darker around the hand. Had to wait a minute for it to dry. Okay, now let's do his face, or her face. Looks like a girl to me, I don't know why. So I'm just putting some water on it. Okay, now we can see where that neck is. She really doesn't have a neck. She's looking down. So we're going to go right up. I'm putting a little bit of water, not a lot. And coming back down. And I chose yellow for my bunnies because I thought it would, because I thought it would show up a little better for you to see. Okay, and now we're going to go around that ear on the inside of the face, which is right up against that ear. Get a little wet. And if you get too much water on it, it's not going to float right. You need just the right amount of water. So if you get too much, just let it sit just a minute, just long enough to dry, or you can just kind of blow on it. Notice how I'm standing it straight up and down on its chisel edge, and I'm really pushing. To soften that shade out. Okay, now this goes all the way up to her neck. And that's going to be where, that's like the outside of the arm. I guess the inside of the arm. And I'm making my shading a little bit wider and darker so that hopefully you can see it better. Okay, so you've got those two sections sectioned off. Okay, so now we can go back in. I'm going to make this a little bit darker here on around that ear. Got a little bit of water in my brush, not much. Okay, so let's go back in with that baby duck color. And now let's do the top here, so we're not running our hand across down here. So let's go in. Whoop, not the baby duck. I'm sorry, I told you wrong. Hold, please. We need to base coat it in white first. Okay, so we need to go back into that white. And let's base coat the ear. Now my piece has a little bit of a flaw here. It's got a hard spot, a spot here where the wood kind of overlays each other, so it's got a ridge, and some of that paint is getting puddled in it. But that's why I didn't send it to you guys, because it had a little bit of a blemish in it. Okay, make sure you cover up your graphite lines. Yay, I'm glad, Sherry. Do you have all the videos? We are renovating our house by the time I was going to start it. The hat videos, Janelle, I do not still have those videos. Those were well over 30 days old, and Facebook deletes them after 30 days, but I do have some hat videos on how to paint hats on my YouTube channel. So if you will just, on YouTube, just search for Young at Heart Creations and go to that page, you will have the instructions on how to paint the hats. I will download these onto YouTube as well. I didn't think I could do that, but I now know I can. So I will do that on these. But go watch those videos, Janelle, and if you have any questions at all on them, hun, message me. Okay, and I'm going to go down here and do this leg. Careful not to mess up the shading you just did. And if we don't get finished with this, I know this one has a lot of detail, but if we don't get finished with it by Saturday, we will go over the 2-hour limit, or I will come on Monday again and do our little finish up. But I think we'll be able to get done. I may have you do some homework. Let's go ahead and do his bottom foot here, or hers. And once we get all these, the base coating done, things like the little road and things like that are really easy and very fast. Very fast. You'll need to refer to your pattern to see where some of these little curves go. The little curve lines. Janelle, are you living in your house while you're remodeling? We've done that. That's not a lot of fun. All right, let's go up here and do, so I've got that little leg. And let's do his ear. Might need to switch to a little bit smaller brush or a round brush. Let's go ahead and see. I think I can do this hand with this brush. I'm just going to get the paint on the tip of it. And remember, it comes over his belly a little bit. Okay, so there's the hand. Make sure I'm covering those graphite lines up. This is dry enough. I'm going to go ahead and put a second coat on it. Just not a full coat, but just touching it up a little bit so that yellow covers. So very quickly, just putting a second coat on that other ear. Paint dries pretty fast under all these lights. Okay, let's do another coat on the leg. Then we'll come up to that ear. Still using the angle brush, but you could also be using a flat brush or a round brush, whatever you are more comfortable with. A lot of people like to paint with a lot with the filbert brush, the little oval brush. Remember, this white base coat is going to be splotchy a little bit because it's just an undercoat. We're just trying to lay enough on there that that yellow will cover okay. Smooth your paint out. Okay, so I'm going to bump down to a smaller brush for the that other arm because it's pretty small, pretty tight area. So let's go with that round that we were using earlier. So so bump down to either a smaller flat angle or a round brush. And I'm going to dip it in my paint, but I'm also going to kind of flatten it out. And we'll come back and do this little area in just a minute. So go around that heart. And you can outline it on the inside and then go back in with a larger brush if you want to paint the inside of it. I'm just going to use this round. Drip some white on that. Okay, and just making sure I'm getting over those graphite lines. And the top of his ear. I just think they've got the sweetest little looks on their faces. So I'm going back over that little hand because I had some graphite lines showing that I don't want showing. Okay, let's draw this ear here. Thank you, Vicki. Living in your she shed. I bet that's not all that much fun. Okay, so let's do one more little coat of white on this ear up here. This would be so cute on the back of a blue jean jacket. or a sweatshirt. I think that's what on the book she's got it painted on a sweatshirt. It's so cute. All right, let's put our yellow on these spots. So I'm going to go back to that larger angle brush or whatever you were using to base coat yours with. It'll take us a couple of coats on there. This baby duck color hasn't been out that long. It's really a pretty yellow. Anybody else painting theirs a different color? If so, what color are you using on your bunny? Let's do the leg. See how much easier it covers having that white under it? Okay, let me turn him around. Still looks a little eek. Like, what's going on? What's happening? But we've got to trust that process. Just make sure you don't have any white showing. Get right up next to it. Where you had shaded, and make sure you cover all that white. Sounds like Mr. Pan coming home. Okay, now let's do his little hand. And remember, it'll take 2 coats. Okay, and let's do the other little ear. So we'll go back to that smaller brush, whatever you base coated with. I'm using a round. And just kind of flattening it out. Banana cream. Oh yeah, that's real close to Baby Duck. I love banana cream. Do y'all like, answer me this, do y'all like these workshops like this at night from 6 to 8 during the week like this, and then we finish them up on Saturday mornings? Or do you prefer them to be of the morning or sometime during the day? Not necessarily morning, but earlier during the day. Or does it matter because you're going to go back and watch the replays? Okay, so let's put one more coat on this. I'll tell you what, I think what we're going to do, because it's about to be 8 o'clock, and that's going to put us at just barely over 2 hours. Okay, so that's fine with y'all, either one. Okay, so what I think we're going to do is we're going to call this a stopping, because we've got that yellow on. I was messy tonight. So we got all of our staining done. We got our background done. So you've learned how to mix colors. You could even put a third color in there on your brush when you're mixing it up. But we've learned how to stain without using stain. And you can do it in any color. Just water that paint down. And how we put it on and then wiped it off a little bit after it's dried. Like, I'll probably go over this side a little bit more. It's not quite as dark as I want it. So after I finish, I may go over it even darker, even with a darker paint. So that we learned how to tape it off if we need to keep that from bleeding so bad on there. We've learned how to put the pattern on using graphite paper, tape it down so that it doesn't move around your pattern. And then we're going to come back. Okay, so my pattern, what did I do with my pattern? Okay, so say I wanted to go ahead and put the face on now. Well, it's going to be kind of hard for me to line this up exactly. Where does it go? Am I off? Are the eyes in the right place? Are they off to a little bit and I end up with the eye on the ear? Because the pattern, I can't see through it. I can't see what's painted underneath. It's just that copy paper is thick and you just cannot see through it. So Miss Janelle, since we did it on tracing paper, I can hold it up now and I can see exactly where I need to get my lines and where it needs to go. You can't do that with that, whoops, I can't hold it still. But you can see what I mean. You can get it exactly where you want it on there. So those eyes are going to be in the right place. So let's go ahead right quick with our liner brush. And if you're not sure where to place these little lines, the little stitches, then lay your paper, your tracing paper back over it. Hold it very still. Go ahead and trace it. What I do with my pencil. It's here somewhere. Let me grab another one. Grab your pencil and just go ahead and trace those lines. And then lay it over your pattern. Or if you want to just do some just to get you started, but you can go ahead and do that on the same way. Just trace them on, trace them on the paper. Down here at the neck. Go around that belly. If that makes it easier for you to get them in the right places, you can certainly do that. And now we've got that stitching on there. And we can get this exactly where it needs to be. I'm upside down, so I can't get it exactly. And then I would put a piece of tape on it like we did earlier, just a little piece, not one this big, because it'll tear your paper. But get it on there so it doesn't move around. And then put that tracing paper, that graphite paper underneath there. And there you go. You know exactly where that pattern needs to go. Tape it down so it doesn't move around on you. Put that graphite paper under it and trace whatever you want on there. So I think I'm going to give you some homework. Okay. Your homework tonight is to go ahead and finish out your rabbit, base coating, and shading. Get your shading done. And then go ahead and trace the rest of the details on the face and the stitching if you want to do that. Now, I will tell you don't put the stitching on because we're going to do some highlighting on it. So go ahead and get him all base coated with the yellow, do the white and then the yellow, and then go ahead and get him completely shaded, or her completely shaded, and get your pattern traced. Just go ahead and trace what you need to trace. Your pattern on your tracing paper from your pattern. Trace what you want on that. And then tomorrow night we will, because we're going to do some little highlighting in here too. Tomorrow night we'll do the stitching, and that doesn't take long at all. So we'll do that stitching. So go ahead and get that. Get your bunny all base coated since you're working on that anyway, and get him base coated, shaded, and then get your pattern traced, ready to trace it on. So we'll do that, but we're not going to trace the rest of the pattern on here until we do some highlighting on him. Okay, so you got a bunch done tonight. You're staining. You've got all the pattern on that we needed to base coat. So we're going to be doing that, a lot of that tomorrow night, a lot of base coating. So we'll get quite a bit of that done tomorrow night. Now, please don't hesitate to email me if you have any questions at all about the process that you're working on. So go ahead and get that done, and we will start again tomorrow promptly at 6 o'clock. We will finish out our bunny, and then we will start on, let me see what our directions say. I need to go by the directions, don't I? We will get the heart base coated and shaded. We're going to get the sign base coated, and hopefully we'll have time to work on the wagon. So we're going to get that done. So, okay, so that's your homework for tonight, and get that little bunny done. I'll get mine done up to that point, and then we'll work really hard on it tomorrow night. Thank y'all so much for, okay, somebody else said nights, but for joining me, for being patient because it wouldn't stay in our group page. But as soon as I get off of here, I will copy it off of this page and put it into our group so you can see it either place. Alrighty, ladies, thank you so much. Good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.